Hello and welcome. My name's Super Saiyan, and this is my predictions, my hopes, my expectations for the future of Warhammer the Horus Heresy plastic range. Now, I'm bringing along my opinions, my experience, discussions I've had with the community as well, in terms of what's possible to come to Horus Heresy in plastic, and to do that, we have to first look at the current Warhammer Horus Heresy range in plastic. Now, I've been thinking about making this video for quite some time, and now I get to make said video. So let's go on over to Horus Heresy on Games Workshop's web store. It's the third gaming system along right there, and there's often big tiles for some of the new releases. So if we click on the Horus Heresy and we go to, let's just click the whole of Legiones Astartes. So you've got 101 releases here. We'll click high to low. We've still got the Warhammer Horus Heresy Age of Darkness box set there. It's £180. It is pricey. However, it does include a full plastic Land Raider Spartan tank, which is the largest Land Raider they pretty much do. One of those tanks from Forge World, before it was taken off of the store and there was the new plastic release, would have cost you £127 just for one tank. Now, I bought mine when they were, I think, £90 and £100 respectively, but already you can see, an extra £50 what that can buy you, because in a way it's an improvement in most regards, the plastic version of the Spartan. One of which is the vehicle accessory sprue. More on that a little bit later on. But yeah, the extra £50, that will get you a £35 Contemptor. It will get you 2 units of 20 Mark 6 Space Marines, which are normally about £47 per box for 20. So that's another £100. So you're already looking at £230 just for the troops and the tank. So if you haven't already picked one of these up, it's fantastic. Even if you have no desire to collect 2 different legions, because there are no legion specific parts, you shouldn't feel compelled to make 2 different armies. You can have all of these in one army. So that was a great start in June. So that's where we've come from. That then paved the way for a number of other plastic releases, and based on what they've released in the past and in the present, may give us some insight into what they could release in the future. You can buy these Primarchs off of the website. It would be nice to have the books as well. There are only, I think off the top of my head, about 3 Primarch novels that you can pick up. It's a shame that they don't come with the novels, but I understand that's a separate thing. But these Primarchs are resin. They're Forge World resin. I have a few of them, and they are fantastic. They are expensive. Games Workshop released a statement during the release of Plastic Horus Heresy to say that the characters won't be made in plastic. Now, we've had a couple of characters in plastic, but not the Primarchs. The upcoming Horus Ascended model will also be in resin. And I think that's a smart move, having the characters that are, Legion specific, and they're very specific miniatures as well, not be made in plastic. Also, the detail is just fantastic on them. They have gone up in price quite considerably. I remember Alfarius being about 65 or maybe even 70. So they are a large investment, especially if you want to try and catch them all at the moment. So they're all the Primarchs. If there are any under the £75 £5 or so, like Angron and Lorgar and Mortarion. You can get your free shipping by ordering them through Games Workshop directly, whereas Forge World you have to spend, I think, £75 to get your free shipping. So that's a little look at the Primarchs. They're not going anywhere. If anything, we might get ascended versions of them, but typically they will be in resin. They released the Kratos Heavy Assault Tank, I think around the same time as the box set. Brand new tank, one of the largest that they've made. Of course, it's not as big as the Baneblade, but it's still a large tank. Its existence is questionable, other than it looks really, really cool. It's, I guess, a stepping stone between a Predator or Sikaran and a super heavy tank, such as like a Fellblade. So for everyone that kind of can't afford or can't justify, spending £200 or so on a Fellblade or Falchion, this is sort of your go-to. It is expensive, points cost, and it is £75. Them releasing this, it was my first experience of, say, plastic Horus Heresy tank in a way, and it introduced the vehicle accessory sprue and the sponsons. Now these sponsons are very, very important. They're the same sponson weapons that you get in the Predator tanks and in the Sikarans and in the upcoming Typhon tanks. Moving further down, we've got a couple of troop boxes and different weapons. We'll talk about those a little bit later on. We've got the rest of the Primarchs, including the cheapest Primarch, Vulcan, and a few of these. And a few of these. Including Vulcan, Kurz, Fulgrim, Ferrus Manus, Lorgar, Angron, and Mortarion. I think they're all the cheapest ones. They released the Spartan Assault Tank not that long after the main release, £67.50, pretty much half price compared to the full resin kit that they made via Forge World up until probably April, May time of this year. And as I say, it was a whole £60 more than this. Is it an improvement? Yeah, for price alone, it is. It's a lot of sprues, it's a lot of parts, it's a kit that will take you longer than you kind of think. It is a big project, but it has a lot of features that have updated the tank. The resin kit wasn't a bad kit on its own. It used to be when all the tracks were separate, but then they created molds for the tracks and the sides of the tanks combined, and that was a good resin kit, one of my favorites. This plastic kit, it's half price, but it will take you 3 to 4 times the amount of time to build it as the resin. And this is a reoccurring thing that I probably will bring up during the course of this video, is that it's great having these kits cheaper, half price, but when these kits are taking you 3 or 4 times the amount of time, building multiple is where you're going to feel that time sink. So in a way, the cost is there and the value is there, and you've been put off by the higher prices for the resin versions of the kits. And also, if you're a smaller collector, now that's hard to do when these kits are, much, much cheaper, because it motivates you to buy, double or more of them. So at the moment, the people that are getting the most out of this plastic range are newcomers and collectors that are only going to have like a small force, 1 legion. I'm not saying that every other person in the hobby won't get value and won't get some fantastic experiences, but I think those people are the ones that are winning. The Land Raider Proteus is relatively new. It only came out a couple of months ago. Again, I think it's a better kit than the Spartan Assault Tank, mainly because it's the same price as the current over 20-year-old Mars pattern Land Raider, but you get a number of variants. You can build this Proteus Explorator, which is right there, but doesn't have the front assault ramp. You can build the actual Land Raider Proteus itself. Very iconic tank. Harks me back to the 90s. Obviously, it's a fair bit bigger. And you can also build the Explorator with an extra turret mounted, either twin link las cannon or heavy bolters or even heavy flamers. So fantastic kit there, and that really is the blueprint. That and the Spartan are the blueprints for these next wave of tanks that we're going to be receiving. And this is part of my predictions. Hopefully we're going to get different variants. There was a Command Land Raider from Forge World, there was an Achilles, there's the Typhon with the siege cannon, and there's the Cerberus, not to mention any others that Games Workshop have up their sleeves. More than the release of the tanks themselves and the value that you're getting and how good they are, and the tolerances in terms of how well the kits go together, it's what the creation of these injection molds and plastic parts mean, moving forward, and how best they can use those sprues, because we know they've done that many times in the past. They reuse the sprues from various kits and just add an extra sprue in. They did that with the Knights, hugely successful. The Cataphractii Terminator Squad, now nothing's changed from this set other than you're getting 10. These miniatures were released 7 years ago at the Betrayal at Calth. Can we just take a moment to acknowledge that it's been 7 years since I unboxed and reviewed Betrayal at Calth? The Tartarus plastic set, and these Tartarus Space Marines are even smaller, that actually came out 6 years ago, so a year later. So these miniatures, they're getting on a little bit, and they are a bit smaller compared to some of the others in the range. The Mark IV came out, of course, alongside those Terminator squads all those years ago. But another very iconic and important kit that they released recently this year has been the Leviathan Siege Dreadnought with claw and drill weapons, and also its twin, the Siege Dreadnought with range weapons. Maybe not as effective as the Siege Dreadnought, but the creation of the Siege Dreadnought paved the way for the ranged version. Yes, I myself would have preferred just one kit. Saves on the confusion, and you probably get a nice selection of weapons. To have, a melter and a claw, or a grav and a drill, something like that, so you can mix and match. The kit is a very nice kit to build. I'm still a big fan of the Resin Contemptor and Leviathan Dreadnought kits. I've always encouraged anyone new to Forge World Resin to pick up either Sakharan or a Contemptor as their first kits, to get a feel for the resin and to build up your resin craft. As I've now, again, these kits, they're plastic, they have a lot of parts, they're a bit of a project. They're very easy to magnetize the weapons though, both at the shoulder point and at the wrists, so you can swap those weapons out. I'm not sure they can go much further from having those two kits. As I say, I would have preferred a single kit, but that single kit probably would have cost £70. Knowing that a single sprue for either of these dreadnoughts is £16, that would have bumped the price to a single kit to a minimum of £63, which I think is a bit too much. £47.50 is about right for quite a large dreadnought. I'm not sure how easy it is to justify, considering that a Redemptor Dreadnought is £5 cheaper and you get multiple weapon options with that kit. And it is bigger than these Leviathans, but still. The Sakharan Battle Tank. Now this one I knew was on the horizon. We'd had the Kratos, it was just a matter of time until they shrunk that down and created all the parts in plastic for the plastic Sakharan. What did throw me a little bit, despite it being half price compared to the resin kits on Forge World, compared to the resin Sakarans on Forge World, was that there was no other turret option. But Super, the resin Sakarans on Forge World, only have one weapon option too. Yes, I understand. But maybe we've been spoilt with the Predators having different weapon options, with the Kratos, even the Land Raiders to some extent. I'd say it's one of the weaker versions of the Sakarans, but it's a bit of an all-rounder. And like the Land Raider kits and the Deimos Pattern Rhino, which, you know, we're saving the best till last, I guess, it's about what its creation and these parts being made mean moving forward for future Sakarans. I know they've got different variants other than the Forge World ones sat there at Games Workshop, and it's just a simple case of swapping that sprue out and giving us different variants for the Sakarans, which I'm very, very much looking forward to. The Mark III Tactical Squad, it's great that they re-released that. Try and pick these up whenever you can, because they do tend to go out of stock very, very quickly. Size-wise, people were very concerned about the sizes of these to the newer Mark VI. They're the same size. I've gone through size comparisons. So many other people have on Instagram and various other places. They are the same size. The Mark IVs are a little bit smaller, but they've been a little bit smaller than these Mark IIIs since the release. The armour is, I say, more efficient, more streamlined. Take your pick of words, but it is smaller, like Tartarus's. The army books. Now, they started off very, very strong with both of these books. Yes, they're £42.50, which is a large amount, but it's not the £80 to £90 that the older black books were from Forge World. It's unfair me comparing those, because those books had incredible paper quality, and they had the full leather-bound covers with the metal corner protectors, page keepers, the art and the story, and just absolutely incredible books. If you can find any of those black books, even though the rules are sort of outdated, it's worth getting them just for the content. It's how you do a book. It's how you do these big army books. They did release the army books in sort of non-special editions, but they started off very strong with both of these. The layout, even to this day, after all these months, it's still a bit of a pain to navigate, and I do question, you know, where things are in the book and their order. But I also like how the legions are presented in numerical order, how the units are presented. I would like more pictures of the models and the miniatures and things like that. I know they have release schedules and things. There are new miniatures in there. We got the first look at the Land Raider Proteus many, many months before it was released. But check out my first looks of those books for a more in-depth description of them. Then we had the Deimos Pattern Predator Battle Tank. Similar to the Spartan and hopefully the Sakaran, both of these Predators built off of the creation of the Deimos Pattern Rhino, and I kind of expected they would. I didn't expect them to make two variants and name them very oddly. I mean, this is a Predator through and through. It's got a Predator autocannon, it's got the heavy bolters. It's as expensive as the Warhammer 40,000 Predators, so it really is up to you which you go for. The one thing I will say about both of these Predators is the amount of weapon options and customizable options. Not only do you get your autocannon, you get your twin link las cannon, you get your Volkite, you get your Graviton, so you're getting your 4 weapon options in this one tank. And yes, all the turrets can be swapped out, hot swapped, whatever. Sponsons, they've taken them directly off the Kratos and the Sakaran. You've got the 4 different sponson weapons, and you're getting that vehicle accessory sprue. They really can't do any more with these plastic kits. They give you so much more than the 40k versions, and that raises the point, should these be £40? I think yes, but should the older 20-year-old Predators and things and Rhinos and Land Raiders be the same price? No. and this is the issue, in that they don't give discounts, they don't have a reward scheme. It's hard to justify those older kits now being the same price as these brand new kits in all of their CAD goodness and many, many extra parts. It's hard to justify those kits at those price points. Very recently, we've had the Scorpius missile tank. A joy to build. It's a Rhino at the end of the day, but you're getting that missile battery, which is actually better than I thought it would be in terms of the Horus Heresy rules. When you dive down deep and you look at the pinning and you look at the barrage and the rocket barrage and the range and the size of the blast marker, it kind of wonders why you'd take a Vindicator anymore. And I hope that they build on this Deimos pattern Rhino more and release a couple more different variants for that tank range. The Contemptor Dreadnought. Yeah, Games Workshop did pull a fast one by only including the vanilla Contemptor Dreadnought in the Age of Darkness box set. Now, it's a stripped down version of this Contemptor Dreadnought. This Contemptor Dreadnought is the full package. You've got all of the different weapon options here. You've got the different chest plates. You've got las cannons. You've got melter cannons. You've got Volkite, conversion beamers, absolutely everything. This has so many sprues, so many parts. It is a mini project. It will take you much longer than the resin Contemptor Dreadnought, and I don't know whether it would be as much fun. And I can safely say it's not as much fun putting it together after having built many resin Contemptors and a decent number of plastic ones now. It's still a fantastic kit though, and it's out of stock right now apparently. But it does pose some difficulties with hot swapping the weapons and where you put in the magnets and how many shoulder joints you receive in the kit. But they're very strong on the battlefield, and you're pretty much guaranteed to see at least one whenever you have a game. The Cataphractii Praetor and Chaplain Console came out around the time of the Betrayal at Calth box set, so 7 years ago. They've also made their appearance in the Warhammer 40,000, I think Conquest and Imperium. I think they were present in both. The drop pod has been around for a number of years, but this Deimos pattern Rhino, this is, you can thank this kit right here. Yes, it's £28. It's a fair chunk of money. I mean, of course, it's not to the lofty prices of the Adeptus Sororitas Rhino at £36, but still, it is a good chunk of money. One of the best features you're getting with this tank is that vehicle accessory sprue with all those pintle mounted weapons that you're most likely not going to put on this. It's very doubtful that you're going to put your pintle mounted heavy bolter on a Rhino or a pintle mounted multi-melter or hunter killer. Maybe you even put a hunter killer on there, but the chances are you're going to put those weapons on the bigger, already more expensive tanks. So fantastic kit, the Rhino. Great for the hobby. Great for what it brings to the other tanks with the same chassis, such as a Predator and a Scorpius, and hopefully more. And I need to mention that it's cheaper than the current 20 plus year Rhino. Now, the weapon sets were controversial. I think a number of people looked at these to begin with, myself included, and thought, great, so we're not getting any heavy weapons with the new Mark 6 sets. But after a while, it does make sense. You're probably going to have a number of these weapons left over, but what it does is it allows you to just pick one of these sets and then kit out 30 Space Marines with all of them. That's a considerable number. Space Marines work differently in the Horus Heresy to 40k, and I guess that was a bit of a learning curve for some people, in that you can't take a heavy weapon in a normal sort of troop unit. It has to be a dedicated heavy support unit. Therefore, you're going to have 5 las cannons or even 10 las cannons in that set. So you're going to need all of the same weapon. And these sets, although they are pricey, and I think they are pricier than they should be, they do offer you that choice of picking those heavy weapons or even the support weapons and special weapons, and using them for whichever unit you wish to equip them with. I would have liked the compatibility to spill over to the Mark III and Mark IV, but I totally understand why that was just not possible in terms of the new miniatures. We had a couple of sets of dice, and then we had the older dice from Forge World that they made good number of years ago now. The Scout Squad has been around for a very long time in plastic. And then we had a number of Legion transfer sheets. And then some characters. So I think Horus Heresy in plastic kicked off with two characters, Dominion Zephon and Fafnir Ran. When they first came out, I think they were £18, so they only had a slight £1 increase with inflation and things. And they were a great start, especially Fafnir Ran. A great start to Plastic Heresy. It was our first introduction to, what the boxes will look like, the artwork, the font, the reverse of the boxes with the actual scale of the models, the instructions, which are black and white, and throughout the whole Horus Heresy range, it's black and white, and it's just, paper, which is detached from a lot of the newer 40k kits, definitely. I don't know how they were able to keep the cost down for these characters at £18 when they first released, but they were able to. And I would have liked to see more. I'll put my hand on my heart here. And yes, it's great to have new Praetors for Death Guard and Emperor's Children, but I would really like to see more plastic characters for the different legions. Azek, of course, came out 6 years ago or so, and so did Felhand. But these are the two new Praetors that were in the set. Massive. Too big, I think. Yes, you've got to have some presence and things like that, but these Praetors were just too oversized compared to the Mark VIs. They almost look Primaris size compared to them. And also the factions that they represented, they didn't necessarily represent a single faction, a single legion. You can paint them in any colours you wish, and they do have helmeted versions as well, but no other weapon options. That was it. And one of the great things about having Praetors is being able to choose your different weapons, and that addresses the elephant in the room. Where is our dual, multi-part, multi-pose Praetor kit? We just don't have one. And that's really strange considering that Warhammer 40,000 and even sometimes Age of Sigmar have these central HQ units like a Lord or a Captain or something like that have multiple poses, multiple parts, and you can customize that central Praetor. Where are the other Centurions? Where's a plastic Centurion, for that matter? I think there is something missing. In a way, it does pave the way for you to build your own, create your own out of spare parts and things. But size-wise, probably won't measure up to these. So I hope that they do release a single HQ that is customizable for these legions. Then finally, these weapon frames for the dreadnoughts. I can see why they've done this, but for both of these dreadnoughts, it is actually more expensive to pick up one of the dreadnoughts and a couple of the weapon sprues to get two of the same kind of weapon for that dreadnought than it ever was from Forge World. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's true. It was cheaper to pick up a Contemptor Dreadnought and just buy the two twin link las cannons than you having to pick up multiple of these weapon sprues. So that's another factor in all of this. Yes, it's great having Plastic Heresy and things, but sometimes it is cheaper when you're more focused in the model that you want to end up with. And we've come to the end of part 1 of this 2-part series, where I've gone through all of the present plastic Horus Heresy range. There will be a part 2 where we'll be on Forge World's web store looking at the current resin range and identifying what will be possible to bring those resin miniatures into plastic. There will be another video isolated from these two where I will be going through my current Horus Heresy plastic collection, where I'll talk more about the current range and all of the releases. We'll be looking at the physical models. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video and it's been helpful and useful and entertaining, and I look forward to bringing you the next video in the series. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.